Frank Zappa was a legendary musician. He was a virtuoso guitarist. He was a phenomenal composer, multi-instrumentalist, filmmaker, writer, critical thinker. He died in 1993 at age 52. He had prostate cancer, and he was as sharp in his critical thinking and oration about current world events as he was arguably on the fretboard. And I want to have a look today at just two quick clips that I found. I've been looking over some of his material where he addresses issues such as schooling, parenting, working as part of the machine, and also the arts and censorship. Now, these clips were recorded back in the 1980s, 1990s, before he died. But now in 2025, they seem to be just as relevant these days. And actually, when you listen to what he's saying, he's almost speaking prophetically about the way things have turned out today in 2025. So I want to have a quick look at the clips. And when I play them, a couple of minutes each, I want to break them down and get your opinions and thoughts and ideas. You can put them in the comment section below this video. Was he on the ball? Did he overthink things? Are you seeing this happening yourself in your own work life, in your own life, in the world, whatever world that it is that you inhabit, or in your children's lives with what they're going through in schools, so-called indoctrination centers they've become these days? But anyway, let's hear Frank, and then we shall break it down and see what it is he has to say.
American schools do not equip you to deal with things like logic. They don't give you the criteria by which to judge between good and bad in any medium or format. And they prepare you to be a usable victim for a military-industrial complex that needs manpower. As long as you're just smart enough to do a job and just dumb enough to swallow what they feed you, you're going to be all right. But if you go beyond that, you're going to have these grave doubts that give you stomach problems, headaches, make you want to go out and do something else. So I believe that schools mechanically and very specifically try and breed out any hint of creative thought in the kids that are coming up.
So what's the alternative for the parent who would agree with you?
Well, remember that the school isn't the only place that a child gets educated. If you realize that the schools are doing damage, and I believe this, I believe that schools do a lot of damage to kids, then you should do what you can at home to help give them something to counteract what's happening to them at school.
You mean encourage creativity?
Encourage them to read things other than what the school gives them. Encourage them to watch things on television other than cartoons, because I don't believe that television is all bad, and some things that are on are very useful. And give them some support. Let them feel that you as a parent want them to be smart, not just to be successful, not just to be a nice little person, that you want them.
You see, listen to what he's saying. And remember, this was pre-internet days. So things have moved on so much further, even since this was originally recorded, which I think was back in the 70s or the 80s, a long, long time ago. But he's talking about, you know, the damage that can be done in schools. He's talking about creating people that'll simply be fed into the machine to work, and creative thinking is discouraged, and any opposition to going against what the cultural norms are is to be frowned upon, is to be censored and to be shut down. And how much more are we seeing that these days in what our children are being taught in their so-called curriculum in schools? So let's hear what he has to say. Let's just break it down just piece by piece, and some of this stuff's worth fleshing out.
Schools do not equip you to deal with things like logic. They don't give you the criteria by which to judge between good and bad in any medium or format.
And that's so true. I mean, just this week alone, in Ireland, the government are talking about introducing new things into the school curriculum, like teaching children about mortgages, teaching children about money management, teaching children about debt. This is 2025. And he's talking about children not being equipped to deal with the real world, not being taught logic, not being able to taught the difference between what is good and evil. And these days, I believe the world is inverted. That which is called evil is now put forth as being good, and that which is good is now put forth as being evil. So the basic tools of functionality in society, like being able to budget, being able to manage your money, what is a mortgage, how what is the law concerning certain areas, these things are not taught in schools. You're just told what you have to learn, and you're graded on your retention of that knowledge and how well you can spout it out in an examination.
And they prepare you to be a usable victim for a military-industrial complex that needs manpower. As long as you're just smart enough to do a job and just dumb enough to swallow what they feed you, you're going to be all right.
That's brilliant. They're churning you out, churning you out. As long as you're just smart enough to do whatever job you have to be set before you, and just dumb enough not to question it, not to step outside the boundaries, not to rock the boat, not to push past any parameters that are being set. If you just stay within your box, you'll be just fine. And again, remember, this was recorded decades ago. How much more these days with rabid HR departments that are waiting to pounce on anyone that would say a word that might be offensive to someone, that would post something on the internet that someone might take offense at, that someone might take it the wrong way, or somebody's feelings might be hurt. You just stay in your box, you be quiet, you be a good little worker, and everything will be just fine for you. How powerful is that?
But if you go beyond that, you're going to have these grave doubts that give you stomach problems, headaches, make you want to go out and do something else. So I believe that schools mechanically and very specifically try and breed out any hint of creative thought in the kids that are coming up.
So what's the alternative for the parent who would agree with you?
Well, remember that the school isn't the only place that a child gets educated.
Very powerful statement also. The school is not the only place a child gets educated, and more these days, homeschooling is something that more and more parents are partaking in. They realize that their children don't have to be gotten up at 6 a.m. and fed their breakfast and stuck on a bus or driven through the traffic to go and sit in a school for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, then come home at night and do their homework and learn about things in school that they'll never actually use in everyday life, like the shapes of clouds or the different types of rock formations that lie underground, or events that happened back in 1325. Fair enough as an adult if you want to go and learn about these things, but reality is, as a child, what does that actually teach you about or equip you for dealing with the real world? So he's already talking about back then the concept of homeschooling, which of course is not a new concept. That has been there for a very, very long time. But back in the day, people just didn't do it. You went to school and that's all there was to it. But more and more people are seeing the light now and realizing that schools are not the only places where a child can go to get an education.
If you realize that the schools are doing damage, and I believe this, I believe that schools do a lot of damage to kids, then you should do what you can at home to help give them something to counteract what's happening to them at school.
That's a sad but true statement. You have to counteract the damage that's being done to children's formative minds in school these days with the destructive ideologies that are being put into their heads, with concepts that they're being introduced to that have no grounding in reality and or science. They're simply ideologies or concepts or theories without any actual factual proof or any social backing to them. Then when the child comes home from school, you're actually having to counterbalance all the guff that they could have been force-fed with during their time in school. And again, he's speaking this, 30, 40 years ago?
You mean encourage creativity?
Encourage them to read things other than what the school gives them. Encourage them to watch things on television other than cartoons, because I don't believe that television is all bad, and some things that are on are very useful. And give them some support. Let them feel that you as a parent want them to be smart, not just to be successful.
Oh, give your children things to read that the school has not provided for them. Let them watch things on television that are educational, that will deepen their understanding of the world that goes on around them, not just cartoons. and teach your children to be smart and not just successful, because let's be honest about it, in this day and age, not everybody that's successful is smart, and sadly not everybody that's smart is successful. It seems to be actually mediocrity is the order of the day, and many people are feeling their way up the social ladder and feeling their way up the corporate ladder for the reasons that he outlined. They know just what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do, when to nod, and when they're told to jump, they ask the question, how high? So let's look at some of the things he has to say also about censorship and arts, because he was very much for pushing artistic expression, indulging in artistry, whether that be painting, whether that be writing, whether that be musicianship, whatever it happened to be, simply to add another depth and dimension to a child's brain and to an adult's brain. Because these days, the internet and computers have very much wiped that artistic expression out. So let's see what he has to say about art and censorship.
People who are artistic have always been a threatening force to people who are dictators. And even though we call this country a democracy, it's turning out to be more and more a candy-coated dictatorship. And so it seems fairly logical that the people who would like to convert this country into a candy-coated dictatorship would do everything they could to make it impossible for people who communicate through the arts to say anything that might resemble a message like the emperor isn't wearing any clothes. That's the thing that they're most afraid of. Anybody who will say anything that equates to the emperor's not wearing any clothes, for some reason that scares the piss out of them.
And again, this is pre-internet days. These are the days before the internet made it possible for people simply to pick up a camera or pick up a phone now, connect via the internet to social media sites, to put their expression of their opinions out there, to share things that they've created out there, to comment on things that are out there, to go against government narratives that have been seeded and fielded out there. And that is something that the governments of this world fear. They fear expression. They fear alternate views. They fear the truth being told. And they fear people hearing it, catching it, thinking about it, processing it, and then spreading it, which they can also do through social media, through medium like the internet. So again, I say that Zappa, speaking back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, up until he died in 1993, he was way ahead of his time. And what he said back then stands up as strongly today as it did back then, if not more so, because things have moved along so much more for the worse, I believe, since then, when it comes to schooling, when it comes to the environments that our children inhabit outside our four walls, when it comes to encouragement to do certain things and discouragement to do others, when a free-speaking, free-thinking, creative, honest opinion is something to be frowned at if it doesn't fit in with the current narrative or whatever narrative any government or institution or workplace is currently piping at the moment. So that's just something for food for thought, I suppose you would say, here today. This channel is called Volition, talking about determining, using your mind, using your thoughts, going forward with them. That's what I want to try and do. A little bit of provocation here for the good. So if you like this content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, cut and paste the link to this video, send it out to whatever groups you may be in, say, hey, check out what Frank Zappa has to say, not what I have to say. And this is just something that's meant to provoke thought. That's all. And discussion and debate, and maybe pause for thought, thinking, yeah, I need to address this area in my life. I need to maybe look at that when it comes to my own children's lives. I need to be thinking outside the box when it comes to this issue. So my name's Rick Munn, and for now, this is Volition. Subscribe to the channel, share the content, and for now, anyway, I am over and